I'd like to call the meeting of the Plan Commission for March 14th, 2023 to order. And first item is roll call, starting on the left, far left.
Jamadi here.
Williams here.
Janzik here.
Wiesinger here. And we have 3 excused, Baker, Coleman, and Dogie. Next item is to appoint a chair to fill in for Mr. Baker, who's out of town.
I'll move that Mr. William, or Commissioner Williams fills in as chair.
Seconded.
All right, we have a motion and a second for Jeff Williams to be the chair for this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Williams, it's all yours.
We are certifying the posting of the meeting.
I certify that on Monday, February 27th, 2023, the agenda for the Town of Rome Plan Commission meeting for Tuesday, March 14th, 2023 was posted at Rome Town Hall at 3:35 p.m., Quick Trip at 4 p.m., Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 3:55 p.m. It was emailed to Wisconsin Daily Tribune at 3:24 p.m.
And we have a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
I seconded.
Moved by Jerry.
Paul.
Second by Paul. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's nervous.
All those of, yeah, I'm trying to figure this out. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I just read this.
You do not have to read it if you don't have a citizen comment.
Do we have any citizen comments?
No, we do not.
Moving on. No action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda. Number 6, informational updates, recent correspondence, current events and announcements. Does anybody have anything?
I have nothing.
The Adams County snowmobile trails will close tomorrow at noon. And most likely, unless the weatherman's totally wrong and the rain that's predicted comes as snow, they will not be open again this year.
The only other thing I would mention, I know that Supervisor Jamadi had posted it also, but Adams County Parks is looking for feedback for their outdoor recreation plan. And there is a link on the county parks website to provide input for what would be in their next 5-year outdoor recreation plan. So if you have interest in that, we do have 2 county parks in the town, so.
Since we have nothing for the public hearing, we just skip those.
I would just say that we have no public hearings.
We have no public hearings scheduled. Discussion and possible action on the following items. Number 9, discussion and possible action, meeting minutes from Tuesday, February 14th, 2023.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Seconded.
Motion by Jerry, second by Paul to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Oh, can we have
Aye.
discussion?
I'm sorry.
Discussion,
I'm sorry.
please?
Yes.
That's okay. I actually just have 2 questions and comments going over our minutes from the last meeting. One has to do with item number, I might have had these out of order here. Comes under, well, it had to do with the seasonal campers. We were talking about the campground that we all approved, which is fine. I don't want to go back on anything. It's just a question that maybe we might want to discuss at a later time. I wasn't, or if somebody can clear it up for me. There was a question under the hearing where we talked about, somebody asked the question, I don't know, I think it might have been Commissioner Baker. He said, is there the possibility to allow for seasonal campers that would be able to camp year-round? And I was confused by the answer that's here in our minutes. It says, yes, we're looking to accommodate campers that are snowbirds 55 or older, looking to have their own little camping community. Am I understanding that to say they're gonna allow more than just the original 4 we approved?
Lori,
No.
could you point out where you're at?
Yeah, I think I got my minutes out of it. Let me find the right spot so I can give you the right page number. Is it maybe?
It's page 3 of 5.
3 of 5, yes, 3 of 5. And it's halfway down, so, above 8, number 8. So I just wanted to make sure I was reading and understanding those minutes correctly, that when he says seasonal campers, They're talking about the 4 we limited it to that we approved.
Yes.
Okay, that's just for my clarification, and I didn't know if we needed to make it any more clear there by that. But then the second one is on page 4 of 5 under item 12. When we talked about and we approved that we made all residential zoning districts consistent with the minimum 312 roof pitch. My only concern here, after reading through these minutes and everything we approved and looking at the pictures, I'm glad we did this, but then I'm thinking back to, in the neighborhood where I live, it's part of Lake Arrowhead, South Lake Arrowhead, there's a lot of mobile homes and manufactured homes. And Lake Arrowhead has its own covenants and things, and there's a part that's a different neighborhood where I am, that on their certified survey maps, they're allowed to have those permanently. My concern is that where we have other zoning districts that we may want to have a discussion at a later date, is the type of manufactured or mobile homes and the ages of those homes, because a 312 pitched roof on an older manufactured mobile home brings you a type of housing that may not be desirable in some of our other zoning, in the manufactured, in that zoning district that allows that type of housing. It just brought it to mind when I looked again at this 312 roof pitch that we're talking about, and we made it so that all of our zoning districts are the same now. But when you have a zoning area that allows other houses to come in, that allows manufactured housing, you could have somebody bringing in a really old mobile home or manufactured home that has a 312 pitch roof.
So this has nothing to do with the type of house. It's only the roof pitch.
I understand that.
And HUD.
All mobile homes were manufactured with 312. That's a standard for the mobile home industry.
But not anymore.
No, you can have something different, but they're all minimum 312. Some go at 412. But
And R2 was 312 before this. And that's our,
But a manufactured home from our standards would have to meet HUD standards, which is a higher standard. So they have to, if they would be moving an existing manufactured home or providing a new manufactured home on that lot, they'd have to show Emily that they abide by HUD standards.
So even if it's an older one,
Yes.
has to be 312, or the current standards, yes.
oh, okay.
Those lots in Arrowhead South are called out specifically in R2.
But I'm saying any other R2, do we want to look at the age of the mobile home that has a 312 pitch roof? Is it something for a future or later discussion, I guess? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
so this might be almost better under future agenda items.
Right, that's
But-
where I was going with it. It just came to my mind that because,
Should we circle back then?
yes,
Okay, let's circle back. at
please,
future
if we
agenda
could.
items.
Thank you.
So, but as far as changes to the minutes,
No,
we're good?
no, it just brought it to my attention there, and that's why I'm bringing it up for discussion, and then if we could talk about it at future agenda items. But these folks here in front of us know more about what I'm trying to say and where it would be good to have that discussion. But thank you.
Any other discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I forgot to vote.
And thank you for your listening through that.
Discussion and possible referral to a future agenda. Consideration of proposed amendments to Chapter 360 zoning, Article 8, R2, 1 and 2 family and manufactured dwelling residence district regarding camping units.
So currently, the R2 zoning district allows for 2 camping units per lot, which is inconsistent with all other residential zoning districts in town. The proposed amendment would make all residential zoning districts consistent, allowing 1 camping unit per lot.
One camping unit in a subdivision.
1
Two,
camping unit per lot.
you're going back to R1, aren't you? The
Yes.
permitted
yeah,
use,
yeah.
but doesn't R1 say that outside of a subdivision, they can have 2?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, outside of a subdivision, which I don't believe any R2 is outside of a subdivision. But yes.
Very, very little.
Is there any? I didn't think there was.
I'm thinking like over by Fiesta
I
wasn't
think
part
you're-
of a subdivision. Was it part of, we'd have to go back.
oh,
Yeah, I'd
that's
have
a
to go back.
subdivision. Oh, I'm not sure if it is or not. Yeah, you're right. regardless, just to clarify that it's one in a subdivision and two outside of a subdivision.
Correct, yep, and then that would be, and that's same, all residential
Right.
zoning districts, yes.
Other than making it consistent, there was another reason why this came up, correct?
When we were discussing the, new subdivision off of 13th, the concern was R2 would allow for 2 camping units per lot, which kinda jump-started this conversation also.
Even though was approved by the
R1.
majority as R1, that's what jump-started this.
Yeah,
Thank you
'cause
for
that
the
was a just
recollection.
talking point, yeah.
Correct. Because had it have stayed R2, which is what we were originally, or he was originally looking at, it could have potentially allowed 2 campers on all of those lots in there, had it have
Correct.
gone R2.
So we need to refer this to a future agenda? 'Cause
You would, unless there's any more discussion you wanna have, otherwise, obviously, this needs to go through a public hearing, so this would be referred to the next agenda if it looks acceptable.
Do we need a motion to do that?
Sure, yeah, I mean, then I think we can reflect that in the minutes then.
I'll make a motion that we refer the changes to, chapter 360, article 8, to a future agenda for public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion and by Jerry, a second by Lori to refer this over. Any other discussion?
Oh, for public hearing at our next meeting?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, so, it'd be public hearing and then consideration of.
Yes,
possible
okay.
amendment.
Thank you for the clarification, so it gets in the minutes that way.
No other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, discussion and possible referral to a future agenda, consideration of proposed amendments to Chapter 360 zoning, Article 8, R2, 1, and 2. Wait a minute. That's one we just did.
That's it.
All right, number 11. Discussion and possible referral to a future agenda, consideration of proposed amendments to Chapter 360 zoning, Article 9, R3, multifamily residence district regarding condominiums.
So currently, as it is phrased, in R3, it does not clarify the number of units per condominium or the type of condominium permitted in R3 zoning. I don't know, if
Yeah.
you wanted to take.
Well, that's a good lead, and so I think the concern here, and the reason that is before you this afternoon is that we're not sure if the wording that is used right now in that section is consistent with what the intent was of the district. In other words, by having that all in that same section, under C, it's reading 3 through 8 plexes, okay, which is contemplating this idea of not duplexes, but 3 through 8 plexes. And then it says, and condominiums, with the approved review of Chapter 703, which is condominium law. The question has come up whether a developer could have single, or actually more specifically, duplex units, okay, in a condominium development, and be consistent with this. And the wording that we use here, I don't think is totally on point with a direct answer. I think it leaves it to a bit ambiguous, and where it's ambiguous, it's going to, if it was challenged, it's going to go towards the property owner, and not in our favor. And so we want to make sure that we're clear on what our intent is, and reflected by cleaning this up if our intent is something else. So the question is, when it says and condominiums, are those condominiums, for example, are duplex, like maybe 4 duplex condominiums surrounding some common elements, would that be within what we would allow R3? Or do we envision, by that wording, 3 through 8 plex type condominium developments around some common elements?
And then-
That's really where it's
And
going.
looking at the other side too, do you want a 12-unit condominium or is it limited to that 3 through 8?
Good point. Yeah, so I think the options are, if you want it to be 3 through 8 plex condominiums, then we would adjust the wording. If rather you see condominium developments, because that's gonna look at a whole development, right? And it might have duplexes around, or, you know, or one big 12-plex, right? If that's the case, then we would pull that, I think, down to D and just have condominiums with approval and review of chapter 703, if that makes sense. I think if we would consider that to be outside the limitation that 3 through 8 plexes is, the best way of reflecting that would be to pull that down and do its own item. And so really what we're looking to do here is have the conversation, clarify it, one way or the other, and this is an opportune time because we're going to bring the other item back for a public hearing, so we can clear this up and make sure that going forward, everybody's on the same page and we're clear with the ordinance language.
So the ask is the number of units,
Per building?
yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Units in a building. Where did, just a question, where did what's the history on the 3 and 8? Seem like
It's a
little
good
different
question.
numbers to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
The 3 through 8 plex?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the 3 through 8 plex, well, so starting with the 3, I'll start on the bottom.
Avoiding
If we,
two.
well, no, if we look to like R2, I think it was giving some thought to where we would envision these kind of developments versus duplexes maybe that would be allowed in R2. So I think it sets, you know, kind of the duplexes is in one district, and, you know, it would be then envision that larger developments be in R3.
More dense.
Now, right, more dense, it allows for more dense developments, and I think it contemplates that with that district. Now, on the top end, the 8, well, if you go back down then to conditional uses, you'll see that's just it's a point at which then it moves to a conditional use, because it goes to 9 or more units would be considered multi-family housing under a conditional use. So that's why I started at the bottom, because actually the top is, there, it isn't saying that there's a top end, it's just saying that from a permitted use standpoint, before it flips over to conditional use, that
That's good.
8 is the number.
Yep, I see it, thank you.
So more than 8 is possible, it just has to go as a conditional use.
That's correct. I think one other consideration that you could have here in determining if you know, what that condominium development might look like in R3 is just to note that, you know, there is some cohesiveness that is envisioned with condominium developments, right? It's not just like we're going to put a couple duplexes here. We'd have to have a condo plat and covenants and I mean, there's a number of very distinct steps with chapter 703. So from that standpoint, it could also look like a full development, right? You know, versus it might not. It just depends on what the development would look like.
It's very similar to the development up in Rapids, just off of 8th Street. What is it called? Rosewood, where there's like 4 of them put together, but they're individually owned condominiums. That would be a 4-plex, but they're condominiums, right? But there's common areas, and then there's a brand new one up in Stevens Point where there's side-by-side condominiums where each of them own their own side, but there's common areas, but it's a whole development.
Yeah, it's it's very similar, although I can't recall, for some reason I'm thinking that the one in Rapids that you're thinking of is actually PUD because of the zero lot line,
Oh.
the way they draw it up, but it
Right,
is,
that's another piece of
If
it,
you were driving
but
by and looking at it, it's
you-
very similar, yes.
exactly. You're getting into the nuts and bolts of how it was developed, but we're talking about building wise, that would be an example of a building.
I would agree, visually, that would be
Visually,
very
that's an example of a building, so 2, 4, yeah.
Yeah, so the question is, visually, would that kind of development be a fit, right, for R3? Because that is set up really as duplexes. throughout there versus, if we wanted to say, nope, it has to have at least 3 units, in your condominium, you know, each unit, each building needs to have 3 units. That's what you're determining here.
How does this impact Rome Town Center if we made these changes? What's
It
the
wouldn't.
impact?
Rome Town Center is Rome Town Center zoning.
Right,
That's,
So this
but
is
we have
like-
multifamily, right, but there's multifamily and, okay, so
so
I
that.
just wanted,
Yep, so that's RTC
Just-
district with certain sub-districts, and this will have no
Sub-districts.
impact on any of the RTC sub-districts. This would just be for R3, and there's no part of-
nothing else, just
R3.
R3 only.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to, okay,
Here would be an eye exam, but
which I'm overdue, so don't strain. me.
R3 would be this little section here, this section here, and this section here. We don't have a ton of R3 in the town. We do have some, but
I think, so the choices you offered us were to either move 3 through 8 just down by under conditional uses.
Nope.
No,
No.
I take that back then, okay, scratch.
So the couple different options. One would be, are you wanting to limit the condominiums to a minimum per structure in that condo development of 3? Okay, that's gonna adjust the wording some to reflect that, because right now it's not clear that way. If you would consider, for example, duplex condominiums, right?
Side
then-
by sides, yeah.
Yep, then what we would do is move that down to D and make it its own separate to very clearly state that condominiums would be a permitted use, provided it had, approval and review of chapter 703. Those are I think the 2 options.
So how does a townhome, I think there's something that's coming, maybe not, but a townhome, isn't a townhome 2 by 2 and people can still own those? At what level does that change to a condominium then? Like a townhome is usually a side by side, like you just described.
Well, and that could be a condo, and
How-
having 3 of them can still be a condo, and having 12 of them in one building can still be a condo. So a
But
condo is,
How can you have a condo with one unit with, one building with 2 units in it unless you have multiple buildings with common space? To me, that's a condominium, right?
Yep, the condo development is going to have a condo plat with common elements, and it's going to have, I mean, at its most simplistic, perhaps it has very few structures and units, but it's gonna have a condo plat. It has to go through 703.
Okay,
I mean, so there's. I
right,
guess
right, okay. All right, no, you,
I think it'd need to be.
it was
single
maybe a
units,
dumb question.
yeah. It could be single as well,
As long as there's an association and.
and the common elements, yeah.
Right,
So basically, you could have a house, like Paul just said, you could have a house, you could have a duplex, you could have 3 of them put together, and it's all part of a condo association. Kinda like the villages.
Technically, yeah.
condominium drill, yeah.
Well, I would recommend that we pull the condos out of C and put it to D and have spelled out from 2 on, 2 and up, you know.
2 and up,
Okay,
Well, for duplex,
so.
duplex condo.
So you want, so understand pull it to D, and then you want a qualifier that requires 2 and up.
Right.
Okay,
We don't wanna eliminate 2,
here's my other question. Do you want to have the top end then for condominiums and then put condominiums for a certain number of units? Like, for example, a 12-unit condominium. I mean, it's still going to be part of the condo plat, right? And so you're still going to have that same review. The question is, do you want a top end or just the bottom with the duplexes?
I think the top end is pretty much covered in, conditional uses, is it not? Or could
Not
be?
if you're pulling condominiums down
Oh,
to
you're
D,
right, okay, yep.
because I'm gonna set a bottom,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to set a top then. Which, it's up to you. I mean,
I don't know, I don't think we should limit top, you never know who comes in with what
yeah, it's,
kind
and
of
it's
plan.
not limiting the top, it's just moving it to a conditional use. That's
Right.
why I asked that question.
You know, we'd have to approve it anyway, so, right?
as a conditional use, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want
So
to
we
put,
leave the gates open and then we can funnel it down to what we think at the time.
So do you want the minimum to stay at the 3, Like the
I'm
3
hearing
through 8
two.
plex,
Yeah,
or go down to
You want to
2?
include duplexes.
2.
I mean, unless there's some historical reason, something that happened years
There's-
ago that for some reason they started at 3.
It
you know?
changed, I think, just to separate R2 that allows duplexes, and then it moved the more dense up to R3. But, I mean, allowing duplexes or 2-unit condominiums in R3 would still be a dense development. So
Okay.
it's,
Yeah, you could have multiple
yeah,
duplexes
you can
together.
have multiple duplexes.
So if you're just building a duplex, that would still go under R2, but if it's a unit,
Or R3 now,
As part of a condominium.
as part of a condominium. But you can have a 2-unit condominium and put it in R3.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, as long as you're going through the 703 steps, which
Yeah.
is significant.
703,
Those
right.
are definitely not easy steps to navigate.
I don't think anybody want to do that for just building one duplex.
yeah, they would just build a
They
duplex.
do-
Yeah.
That would go in
They would
R2.
likely, before they did that, they would likely be approaching us to rezone. Believe me, I mean, it is complex enough that they would likely ask for a rezone before they would go through the steps to do one duplex. In that case, it'd be, quite significant from a procedure. So,
So if we cap under dash 48, if we capped it at 8, and then, but under conditional use, we still allow the opportunity if someone wants to build a much larger project.
that's really what I'm asking.
Well, that sounds logical to me. Yeah.
Okay, so then,
Do we,
go ahead.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead,
Yeah,
and then I'll ask my question.
No, I'd rather you ask your question, because mine was going to be more just a larger procedure and what to expect, so I'd ask.
I was just wondering I was just gonna throw this out there, if maybe we wanna have a summary of all of this, and then when we have the rest of the commissioners here, just have a brief overview before we specifically change anything, cause maybe with your question, that's where there might be some historical things that longer serving members than,
So we looked pretty far into this.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay.
We
I
did
would
a
say-
pretty deep dive.
I would say we
That's
did
why
a-
they all smiled when I asked that question.
I would say.
All
we did
right,
a-
okay, well, yeah,
it would be
and I'm not
discussion at the public
it's not that
hearing.
I'm not comfortable with what you did, that, I'm not saying that at all, I'm just wondering if maybe with the other 3 commissioners here, but that's fine.
Well,
That's
There would
fine.
still be public hearings.
yeah. and-
Right, right,
it's coming
that's,
back.
And they'll all
exactly.
get their a chance to
You're
explain.
right, you're
yeah.
exactly right, so that's fine, that's fine. So you should ask your question.
My
Your
own-
comment.
Yeah, just more of a general comment, that if that is, if we're good with that, then I will update this and we will have it on the next agenda, for a public hearing. If we're good with the way that, sounds, then, it'll be as a public hearing and a consideration, for recommendation to the town board. We can certainly table it if there was, discussion that was had and maybe a question that we needed to look further into, we could always table it. But we'll bring it back at the next meeting if
No, this
everybody's
is,
comfortable with.
this is great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
Fine.
it's gonna happen. If anybody's gonna have the historical context, it's gonna be that man down there.
I don't go back that far.
That was a compliment.
It was, I was trying.
Okay, very good. I appreciate the conversation and I will make those updates and have it, in your next packet. Thank you.
We did a motion for the last one.
Right, in this case, I don't think you necessarily need a motion. There's some adjustments I need to make anyway.
Right.
You'll just have it on the next agenda.
We all agree that we want it on next agenda, and let Nick come up with the wording.
Yes, I think so.
Yep.
All right, number 12, discussion only. Review of public property memorial placement policy. Wow, that's a lot of piece.
Oh, that's entire, okay. So this policy was proposed by the Parks Committee due to requests related to commemorations, such as benches, plaques, etc. Commemorations outside of town parks would be under the purview of Plan Commission. This is not a change from current practice, however, this policy clarifies the process. We're bringing this policy to Plan Commission for review and input prior to recommendation to town board.
Well, I think the policy was done very well. I don't know who all put it together, but Jamie or Nick or all of you
Nick
together.
gets the credit.
Yes.
Yeah, this looks like Nick's work, and he's usually very, very thorough.
And I think you look forward to any other type of statues or whatever might come in down the road as a request. You can address it, so.
Yeah, I think the idea is that all roads lead to the town board for the ultimate approval. That the input is contemplated either from, if it's in the parks, from the Parks Committee, if it's outside of the parks, from the Plan Commission. And this should set some criteria, so when somebody comes to the town and says, you know, I'm thinking about doing this, you know, can you give me some ideas of maybe what I could do? Then we can start to ask, are you thinking of a park? And, you know, we can kind of steer them in that direction. If they're looking at outside, we can kind of steer them on the criteria. This just sets some criteria for consistent practices.
I just had a couple of questions. In the first paragraph, when you talk about water courses, for the, you know, the natural and artificial water channels or flows we might actually own, which ones would you be thinking of or referring to? Like the old quarry that the town owns? Is that what you were referring to with water courses?
Yeah, I think it was just stated generally. It could, certainly.
All
Okay.
encompassing.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's said as really just more of a purpose statement. So really, this is going to apply for anything town-owned or the public property.
Because those are the only two I could think of. Okay, and then as far as facility in the next sentence, is that defined as what, like a building, a launch, or a landing? I mean, is that a facility as far as a public parks facility like the gazebo or the future band shell whenever that gets built? Or are you talking about maybe the kayak launch? Somebody might want to stick a sign there or
Yeah,
place a sign there, because do we need to define that anywhere else more in depth? Just asking the question, throwing that out there. Because I think in the future, this will be great too. This will help us for future beautification efforts, because talking about that at CDA, you know, some artists might even come along that if we engage them for a future public arts initiative, they might even want to donate something, and then this will work for that. So that was one other comment that I had, was regarding facility. What are we defining that as? You know, specifically buildings, or could it be the kayak launch, or could it be baseball diamond, or, you know, what facility are we,
Yeah,
or is it all encompassing?
I think it's all encompassing, and I also think you made a good point, and I would just echo the comment. So, back to your first question, which was what makes up water courses. Note that this is not a singular point in time looking back, right? This also applies, let's just say we do have a water course at some point, that this would apply to that too, right? If we have a different water course.
Like a
So-
lazy river.
So it could apply to more, right? I mean.
In the kitchen? No.
Let me know.
It's forward looking. I mean, that's, I think the policy is drafted in a way
Sure.
to also be applicable going forward, even if we don't have an idea of one that we have right now that would perfectly apply.
Right.
I think we tried to draft it in a way that's referring to those generally enough to allow for it to still apply if we had some other facilities or water courses.
Right. I was just interested if maybe there was something that came forward right now too, that maybe there's something in mind that somebody's wanting to donate something, that we should have this done right away. So that was the only question. And then under number 2, in section B, under Roman numeral number 1, it says in the second sentence, political. I don't know, do we really want to put political in there? It was just a question. I just,
Yeah, so I'll
maybe
answer.
we go to cultural, like
Well,
you
no,
have in
and-
number
and
2.
I'll answer that. So I can just give maybe just a general example, because I realize political is sometimes a hot button word right now.
Yeah.
I think when the word political is used here, just to give you kind of my thoughts on it, there are some times where somebody is, let's just say they serve for a long period of time as a supervisor or a chairperson, in the town. That's the kind of political, that it's not that they're taking a political side or political party. I think it's the idea that there's maybe some ties to the town in that way. And
Public service, maybe?
it could be public service.
Just throwing it out there as an option, so just an idea.
Replacing political with
Yeah,
public.
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, I'm
Term
not
of public
opposed to it,
ser-
but I'm just.
But I
letting you
see
know
where
kind
you're
of
coming from now.
That word is grounded in, and not contemplating something differently than that.
Right, because I could see a whole range of things people might come up with under that. And then the last comment would be under paragraph F, under number 2, where in the second sentence it lists, choose from a list of options and locations prioritized according to town plans. Do we have options in a list and locations? And if we don't, we should probably work on that when this policy,
Yeah.
as soon as the
So,
policy
Yeah, I,
is approved.
I don't know that we do unless the Parks Committee is working on that, but I do think we have some plans that could, that could give some inspiration towards that. And I
Excellent.
would agree that that would be the logical next step here.
Perfect. Thank you. Those were my questions and comments.
We have had interest about benches, that's been the
I've
number one
even
item,
brought
has
that
been
up.
benches.
For like the cemetery and even in the big park over here, and people wanted to put,
Well, we have one in process right now.
Yep.
With Larry Halverson bench goes in the.
so there is
town.
one coming up, and the Larry Halverson bench is for where?
Rome Town Center.
Oh.
It'll be for, by the gazebo.
So then there is one that's, okay, perfect.
Yep, and that'll be
That'd be nice.
that was sponsored by the Snow Bandits, the Car Club,
And a dog park,
and the Dog Park.
Oh, very nice.
very nice.
Because I know there's one at the library that was gifted a number of years ago, so.
Yeah, and there's also a memoriam by the flagpole that was.
Well,
gifted
that's a
too.
veterans memorial that's been there for a very long time.
So, will we need an application for the Halverson bench?
Even though Parks Commission has approved that one, I think we should still just have one on file, provided the policy is approved through town board.
You can send me, the final draft. I will get it filled out and back to you.
Yep.
Very nice.
We have the bench sitting over at the groomer shed, just waiting for warm weather to put it together.
Oh, very nice.
It also provides a good, template if other people, we have a bench now that people could look at.
It's engraved very nicely on the back.
Is it like, what's it made out of? Is it,
Composite
Stone?
material
oh, cool.
and aluminum frame for the stands.
Very nice.
And the Parks Committee on that bench felt, that they wanted it engraved rather than plaques, cause plaques can fall off or get lost, they can get scratched, where
Stolen.
if the bench is engraved, it has more permanency and is more visual.
Right, you can see it from a distance. Plaques, you gotta get up close to read them.
Very nice.
Nick, do you need any action on this?
Well,
Said discussion only.
yeah, so I will just maybe ask for general consensus. Do we like adjusting political to public service? Which I think was the intent.
Yeah,
And it was just a comment or suggestion
Yeah, I
I
think
made.
that was the intent as I drafted it. So I like, the other context, and I think that would be within what the intent was going in, so.
Yeah, I'm indifferent.
Anybody else
I-
strong feelings on it?
I'm fine with public service.
Then I will, I'll make that update, and then has this been reviewed by Parks, or?
It has been reviewed by Parks, it'll go back on their agenda for next week, we just wanted to make sure that Plan Commission also, if there was substantial changes or concerns, that we had that input, and then, Parks will actually make it as a referral to town board, for a town board agenda.
Okay, so that gives me a bit of clarity on timeline, so I will get that updated right away, get you a final draft for Parks, and then they can consider that, and you'll just have to let them know that that was the adjustment that.
It would be nice to get a copy of this then to CDA so they can review it, especially, so we have this information for future beautification too. Discussions.
Yeah, I thought about your project whenever I read this the other day.
Yeah.
All right, number 13, next agenda items.
So comprehensive plan objectives, they'll be coming back when ready, it might not be next month. The site plan amendment might be back next month as well, but it's in the plans to be back, maybe just not next month, the month after. And then there is another, site plan of operation, for the building for the docks and boat lift sales. We previously approved the display only on D. So he's going back to do a building.
There may be one short-term rental that's ready by that time.
And then did you wanna discuss?
Yes, if we could bring that back, that question that I had about the roof pitch on older mobile homes and,
So do you wanna, should we bring back language regarding the year or type of manufactured home permitted? Like, would
I-
that cover that?
I think that would be very helpful. Because
Yes.
what I'm hearing is, and I don't think I'm misunderstanding your concern, but what I'm hearing is the concern being older. And I think that we have regulations in place that would not permit, ones that are older than, like the eighties and actually maybe even newer than that.
I
So,
was gonna say,
people have brought them in though.
I don't think somebody could bring in,
it was like 93 is sticking
yeah.
out in my brain for some reason.
and I was thinking late eighties, but,
Cause one
either
was
way, I think
recently,
there's a-
I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's a limit to what they can, bring in, and we can bring that back as a report and then have a larger conversation.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be really, really great, because I know of an instance for sure where, yes, please, that would be great, thank you. And then the other one on your site plan, that you have on here, on the previous agenda, when we carried it forward to the last agenda and then this one, it said site plan / plan of operations, so I don't know if that makes a difference, but,
So it's really just a site plan that'll be amended, not the plan of operation, but it's a site plan of operation, like application. It's the same thing that you always see.
okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't missing something, cause I saw it carry forward as both, and then
Yeah.
on this one, it just said site plan amendment.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, cause it's mainly just the layout that's changing for that. So
Okay.
it really is just a site plan, but you'll see the same things.
Okay,
Yep.
all right,
The
thank
full
you.
title versus the abbreviation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you get tired of carrying over this, yeah, got it.
The 3 more
Just
words.
abbreviate it, just go down to SPA.
So Jamie, is this the second short-term rental conditional use permit since we changed the process?
No, we haven't had any since we.
So this is the first one?
Yeah.
Is there a difference? Can you guys see a difference?
Yes. We've had many come in the door.
Yeah.
Many,
Yeah.
many, many.
Probably 6. But
At least, yeah.
I think it's also helpful for us to prioritize for them the inspections. So I think it's been
Excellent.
helpful both for plan commission and for staff.
Yeah.
In one day, I sent out 3 packets.
Yeah.
And then 6, I guess, in the door, but more out the door.
So positive, good. Next meeting date, time is March 14th.
Nope.
That's today, sorry. April 11th.
April 11th.
It's a killing.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Seconded.
Motion by Lori, second by Paul to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
You did
Motion.
good.
Meeting adjourned at 4:43 PM.